Deputy Clerk. Good evening. It's 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025, and this is the regular meeting of Sandpoint City Council, now called to order in council chambers at 1123 West Lake Street, Sandpoint, Idaho. For the record, I'm Mayor Jeremy Grimm presiding. Also present are City Council President Deb Rule, Councilors Joe Espiro, Justin Dick, Kyle Schreiber, and Rick Howarth. Councilor Pam Duquette is also present, attending remotely from a wonderful place, and is about to go on a wonderful canoe trip. So hi, Pam. Under the city's adopted Code of Ethics and Civility, as the presiding officer, I'm to identify law enforcement personnel serving as Sergeant of Arms. For this evening's meeting tonight, we have Lieutenant Stephen Chamberlain in the back of the room. Thank you, Lieutenant Chamberlain. And if everyone will please stand, we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For members of the public in attendance, if you wish to testify during the public hearing on this evening's agenda during the general public comment portion of the meeting, please be sure to complete a comment sign-up form and hand it to staff at the back of the room. In additional, some general announcements tonight. First and foremost, Councilman Dick, I believe that I haven't made any assumptions, but you did not turn in a sheet to run for office re-election this fall. So if that is accurate, I just want to say thank you for your service to the people of Sandpoint, and I know we'll have a time to do that again, but it's been a pleasure and an honor to work with you up here on lots of things. So
feel the same way too. Thank you.
Council members, we do have Councilman Espiro, Councilman Howarth running again, as well as Mr. Tate and Mr. Torres running. So it looks like we've got 4 for 3 spots. Of course, any write-ins if anyone's interested to launch a campaign. In terms of summaries for what's going on in the city, I'll just cover some of the staff announcements. It's dry out there. If you aren't aware, we've got a couple of new fires to the east of town. It's going to be dry and hot for the next few days, so please be careful with any flames or open flames and related fire causing apparatus. So hopefully we'll get through this. On the police front, the police department's been very busy. They've seen an increase in about 200 calls per month over the last couple months. So they are dealing with a lot of police call-outs and responses. In addition, we have 2 trainees down at the Post Academy who won't be back until, I believe, December. So they are running thin shifts, and they are working hard. So give your thanks when you see the police officers out there. In the public works arena, we've got a couple of active projects going on. Of course, we've got the last of the lift station upgrades down on Superior next to Exxon and Conoco. That should be wrapping up by the end of the month. We've got a rework in the alley. The reader mentioned that we're cutting into the street again on Boyer. That's not us, that's our contractor. The contractor had some challenges with the initial install of that sewer line, so they have had to come back and redo the whole thing. So that's why we're seeing that additional construction on parts of Boyer and through that Ruth Alley. The culvert north part of town that is collapsing up by the fairgrounds, the primary route to Schweitzer. We have ordered the new culvert. It's a specially designed, specially made sized culvert that's presently being bent and crafted. We don't have a ship date on that, but it's looking like it's going to be late October before we will be able to replace that culvert. We have all of the earthwork and contractors ready to go as soon as that culvert arrives. So appreciate the patience of the public and those up on Schweitzer as we try to repair that collapsing emergency culvert that we've had to address. We don't know the final price on that yet, so we may be applying for disaster aid and financial support both to the county and the state once we get the final price on that. Other things in public works, we will be seeing our one major street project kick off towards the end of the month. That is going to be a milling and repaving of Pine between Division and Boyer. So that's about all we can do, but it'll be wonderful to have a nice smooth street out on Pine. We'll also be doing some minor sidewalk work down on South Fourth. Again, we expect that to take place towards the end of September as well. We do have a couple other big projects going on. One is the RFP for the final phase of downtown revitalization. We will be issuing that shortly. That'll go from Bridge and First down to Superior. That'll be a lengthy process that goes on all winter. We will be identifying a citizen and stakeholder committee to help guide that, including members from our existing commissions, as well as business leaders and property owners downtown. It should be wonderful to get that plan brought into focus and get some community support behind it, and eventually start working on that probably next fall. This fall, we'll also be seeing the pilings next to the former Powder Hound, the hole in the ground on Bridge and First. We'll see those pilings be moved, and we'll see that sidewalk extended to the north. Those pilings are currently on city property, so if you're familiar with that site, you will recognize a much wider sidewalk as you come around the corner and head from First to the city beach. Again, that work will be happening in the next few months before winter. And then finally, the big projects out there, the other ones that we're working on, you'll hear a little bit about the RV parking lot project from Director Welker in just a few minutes. And of course, the wastewater treatment plant. We are actively working with our marketing group, Portman Square. We'll be releasing a website next week. We'll be doing several community workshops and outreaches, and we'll all be doing speaking events and getting everywhere we can to inform the public of the details of the proposed $130 million bond for a wastewater treatment plant project. So for the highlights, that's what's happening in the various departments. If you have any specific questions for directors, please feel free to call them up now. Otherwise, I will turn it over to council announcements. Any council announcements?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilman Schreiber.
I did want to talk about the Urban Forestry Commission's meeting on August 28th. We were told by staff that a few dozen of our street trees throughout downtown have died, and so we reviewed a list of species for replacements with emphasis on selecting trees that will thrive in those conditions. And then we postponed the final vote on the heritage tree definitions and continued our discussion of the arboricultural manual. I did want to mention one thing. Both one of the urban forestry commissioners as well as our one public commenter both expressed concerns that the new trees at Traverse Park were improperly planted and are dying. And so I would ask that the city give an update on the status of that contract and how that contractor is going to remedy that situation.
Director Welker, do you want to comment on that right now, or do you want to approach that next week? Or
Sure. Yeah, we have, as council knows, 88 new trees are planted at Traverse Park. We have been monitoring the health of those trees. Some of them have not survived throughout the heat of the summer. 2 had died most recently, and actually those are the only 2 that had died. 2 were struggling, and it was because they were being overwatered, it turned out. So the landscape contractor returned and adjusted the watering. Those 2 in front of the sports center have since kind of returned to life. I was impressed just last week. I came back from vacation on Wednesday, rode my bike in. Usually I stop and do a quick visit at the sports center, and I noticed 2 dead trees in front of the playground. Immediately took a picture, sent them to our contractor, and they were replaced the next day. So those trees are under warranty. The contract for Gino's services, I think, has been closed as of last week, but we are now in the warranty phase. So all of the landscaping is under warranty, and we'll continue to monitor the health. With 88 trees, some percentage, I actually talked to Eric, our urban forester, about this. He said 10 to 20% are not expected to survive initial planting. It's not uncommon. So far, we've had to replace 2 of those trees that were not surviving after the first several months. So that's that's what's going on with the trees. And we did have our landscape architect inspect all of the plantings to confirm that they were planted. I know there was some concern about the species, but the species were specifically selected to avoid roots growing up and affecting the foundation of the building itself. So we've looked into all of the feedback from the Forestry Commission and kind of confirmed that things are as they are supposed to be. And I'm going to hand you guys an update from Ryan, our sports facility supervisor. You don't want to just pass those down there. Ryan has completed 3 months of work at the city now. We sent out our first newsletter since his starting at the city just yesterday. It's attached. I printed out a copy of the newsletter for you. It was announcing the rollout of our new software, which it was effective as of last week. And as of today, we've received a couple dozen new members through the new software platform. So we are transitioning from the rec track software to the court reserve software. This is the software that our customers were requesting that we transition to. It's what is used at the other pickleball club in the area and at all the tennis and pickleball facilities in the region. So we are seeing some great excitement around the new software. We have now moved away from daily play fees. So all members get to play for free daily now. That was kind of the #1 request over the last year. And we are preparing for our grand opening on October 4th, which will also be a ribbon cutting for the new playground. I did want to give you one more update on the parks projects. Picnic shelter, we are meeting our concrete contractor out there tomorrow morning. We had we solicited bids from about 5 different concrete contractors to pour the 24 by 36 foot concrete pad for the picnic shelter. We do expect that work to take place in the next couple of weeks. We're meeting the contractor out there tomorrow. The shelter has been assembled off site and it's basically awaiting final engineering from the company whose design we are using so that we can get our building permit and go vertical with the structure. But we are hopeful it will be vertical by October 4th, but more likely the shelter itself is going to go up sometime in October. So that's one of our final parks projects. We also have a 15 by 30 foot shade structure that has been approved. We have building permits approved, and that is being manufactured and will be delivered later this fall to be installed in the southwest corner of the skate park. So the focus this year has been on wrapping up all our Traverse Park projects. As you know, we're hoping to be done with all of them by mid to late October and have something really beautiful and something we can all be proud of there at Traverse Park. So I think that's it for parks projects. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to take them. I did want to point out one thing. Outreach for the parking management plan is ongoing. Over 100 business owners downtown have received flyers, either in the mail or those that got returned to me. I had community resource, or the police chief had community resource officers hand deliver them. We do have a downtown business owner meeting at 8:30 a.m. at Marigold Bistro on Monday, September 8th. So next week. The goal is to pack that room with all the downtown business owners in the affected areas where paid parking is being proposed so that we can answer questions, address their concerns, educate them about the purpose, the background of the parking study from 2022 and the resulting parking management plan that you approved in June. So outreach is ongoing. In addition to the RV park RFQ, which we'll be discussing later tonight, Cheryl has been working on finalizing a parking management implementation RFP, request for proposals. We do expect to go out for that in the next few weeks. Once we start receiving proposals from different providers, we'll have a clearer understanding of how technology can be used to assure the most seamless and efficient implementation of the parking management plan downtown. But right now, we don't have all the answers to everybody's questions. Is it going to be an app? Is it going to be quarters in an old-fashioned meter? Probably not. Is it going to be smartphone compatible? Things like that. We are just still in the early stages, and community outreach and engagement is ongoing with that business owner meeting next Monday morning. So Joel, Justin, hope you guys can make it 8:30 at Marigold Bistro.
Director Welker, just one quick question. You said where paid parking is being proposed, and that's first and second, but it's paid parking today, right? You have to buy a pass. Am I incorrect?
We have downtown employee passes right now.
Yeah, but you can't park there all day for free
Correct.
right
To
now.
park more than actually, there's no passes available at present for the 2-hour zone. There are passes available for the 3 and 4 hour zones. They're $340 annually, and that a holder of one of those passes can avoid getting parking tickets in the 3 and 4 hours.
So we have paid parking
We
today?
do,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. Just wanted to confirm that.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions for Director Welker?
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question? Hey, Jason, thank you for all your hard work here. So if we have paid parking passes right now, the fees that we were talking about at our last meeting, did those parking passes go up based upon the fees that we decided on at our last meeting?
The $340 parking pass is no longer in the fee schedule, and that's been replaced with a $40 per month parking pass.
So it is now $40
Yes.
for that.
That's what
Okay.
was in the fee schedule. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Director Welker?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead,
can
Councilman
people
Spear.
rent the community room via that app?
The community room is available on Court Reserve,
Okay.
I believe. I'd have to double check that. But if not, that can be reserved by calling the front desk. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you,
Yep.
Director Welker. Next, we'll proceed with the general public comment portion of the meeting.
Oh,
If you wish to
Mr.
speak.
Mayor,
Oh, I am so sorry, Councilwoman Duquette, your remoteness.
I get it. I feel
scared me.
barely
Go ahead.
remote.
How are you?
I do have a sustainability committee report.
Report away.
Okay, we did meet again, finally, after not having enough people and losing our chair. We elected a new board chair, Christine Moon, and a vice chair is Deborah Dixon. And Christine, I must say, came to the meeting with goals and plans, which was awesome. She shared the committee duties again with everybody so that everybody would be on board with what is expected. She wants to submit a sustainability plan to the City Council by June of 2026. She wants to advocate effectively for a city sustainability position. I know she's talked to the mayor about that. She wants to engage one or more university programs to partner with the city on sustainability and complete one or more low-hanging projects by September 26th. So the two attendees who were there each chose one of those projects to look into. So I'm excited. We'll see how we do.
That sounds awesome. Thanks
Yeah,
for spearheading that and keeping them aligned.
Mr. Mayor, may I make one
Councilman
quick
Dick?
comment? Yeah, and some unfortunate news, longtime resident and local artist Sally Dennison passed away this weekend. You guys might know her from all of her work at the Artworks Co-op. She was an absolutely wonderful woman. There'll be a friends and family celebration of life here in the first week of October, and then we're hoping to do something larger for her after that. So I'll make sure that I update everyone as soon as we get those details hammered out. Thank you.
thanks, Mr. Mayor. One
Go
more
ahead, you're
thing, if I
recognized.
may. Sorry. Bill Dean came and shared information about planned unit development. So we had a discussion with the group on that, and he asked a lot of questions and tried to include our ideas. So that was well received, and we appreciated that. I just wanted to share. I forgot about that. Okay, finished.
Thank you, Councilwoman Duquette. And just another note on the passing. I just became aware that Councilman Howard's mother passed away this morning. So sorry to hear that, Rick. And we wish you the best as you navigate the next couple weeks. Moving on, we'll proceed with the general public comment portion of the meeting. If you wish to speak and haven't yet completed a sign-up form, please do so and hand it to a staff member at the back of the room. The purpose of general comment time is to allow members of the public in attendance to speak to the mayor and council regarding items included on this evening's agenda under consent calendar or old or new business that is not a hearing. For purposes of general public forum, you're also welcome to comment on any topic pertinent to the business of the city of Sandpoint, not included on the agenda and not anticipated or scheduled for future public hearings. Please note that the council cannot take testimony on any planning or land use related matter outside of an official public hearing. I'd like to make everyone aware the city does have a policy on public meeting decorum. The rules are posted just outside the chamber's entry doors. In summary, I would ask that everyone please be pleasant and respectful, not make derogatory statements about others, including city staff, not be disorderly or disruptive, no calling out, clapping, or holding up signs. Public comment time is for comments only, no questions or debate. You're welcome to contact me during regular business hours if you have any questions or concerns. This is the only general public comment time that will be offered this evening. Those attending remotely who wish to speak may raise a hand on Zoom at this time. When it's your turn to speak, please state your name and whether you reside in Sandpoint city limits. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes. With that, Madam Clerk, has anyone signed up to speak?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have Molly O'Reilly.
Good evening, Ms. O'Reilly.
Molly O'Reilly, Sandpoint resident. Mayor Grimm, thank you for appointing such a capable, involved, and thoughtful pedestrian bicycle advisory committee. The ordinance creating the committee lists a daunting array of duties. Rather than hold multiple committee meetings each month to catch up and keep up, the committee has formed subcommittees that meet as needed and bring suggestions to the full PBAC. The events subcommittee planned a spring event. It took a break afterwards and is again meeting to plan public meetings so our residents can tell the city where they want in-lieu sidewalk funds to be spent in their neighborhoods. The Development Review Subcommittee has offered the full committee comments on proposed private developments, most of which the committee has adopted to submit to staff. These are time sensitive as they need to be submitted before projects go to P&Z or have finalized staff reports. This subcommittee also took a break when no new developments were on the city website. The intersection subcommittee was formed because a number of people joined the PBAC out of concern for several unsafe intersections. The full committee has adopted most of the suggestions of this subcommittee to submit to public work staff, but not all. The Multimodal Transportation Plan Subcommittee was asked to and drafted suggestions for the next phase downtown that the full committee agreed with and sent off to staff. It's currently analyzing how streets are categorized for pedestrian and bicycle use and hopes to start presenting those to the full committee in October for discussion. When this master plan is opened for reauthorization, the PBAC wants to be prepared to participate fully and constructively. All PBAC members recently helped inventory bicycle parking downtown. If we hold multiple full committee meetings each month, that requires a lot of staff time to prepare agendas, attend the meetings, take minutes, and carry forward recommendations. Subcommittee notes are part of the public agenda packet for the full committee and do not take up valuable staff time. We strictly adhere to open meeting laws as we work to fulfill our responsibilities. We're active and we're trying to do what we're supposed to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Molly, for all your support and effort you put into those.
Mr. Mayor, we have Carol Jenkins.
Good evening, Ms. Jenkins.
Thank you, Mayor and councilors, for this opportunity to speak. My husband and I have been supporters of the Bonner County Historical Society Museum for 25 years, and we would like to see their receive a lease going forward that will enable them to fulfill their goals and their projects, and to do this, comfortably, knowing that they have a lease all settled and in place. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins.
Mr. Mayor, on Zoom, we have Jennifer Wood.
Ms. Wood, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can, former neighbor. What's going on?
Thank you, Mayor Graham. Good to hear you. Thank you, everybody, for giving me a chance to speak tonight. I'm speaking tonight also on behalf of the Bonner County Historical Society. My husband, my son, and myself are all members. And my family has been donating our history and our heirlooms since the doors opened for the museum. And I am very passionate about the history of Bonner County. I think there's so much that we can embrace and learn about it as the future comes. Everything from land development to things that were done years ago. There's so much benefit to having our museum. And when we donated my great grandmother's items, she was a historical artist here in Bonner County who is known for her paintings of the David Thompson series, the Lewis and Clark series, and all that we have given to the museum so that our family history can become everyone's family history. And my concern is if this lease isn't signed, that they can't go forward with having more room and more space to preserve these items and to take on more items. I mean, I don't mean to sound negative But my parents are in their 70s now. There will come a time where we're going to have even more things that we want to donate to the museum. It's not going to stop preserving history. And if we have the opportunity to have that for years to come, I just I ask that you really consider how important that lease is, and tying it in with our historical park there, the caboose. Even if anybody out there remembers Jeff, as like locally known as Sprout, who built the rock wall between that and the sewage station, and just all these treasures that we have. I don't think there was one Halloween in my child's history, and he's 15 this year, where we didn't start our trick or treating at the museum. It's multiple times a year that we do things with the museum and enjoy it. And it's tied in with the Lions Club, who we treasure. And even though I have more time, I think that I've already made my point. So I just, again, thank you for hearing me out, and just know how much it means to our community and to our youth that these legacies will continue. Have a good night, and thank you again for letting me speak.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Mr. Mayor, at this time, no one else has signed up for the general public comment.
Okay, excellent. That will conclude the general public comment portion of the meeting. We'll move on to the consent calendar. On the consent calendar, for the record, the total amount of bills for the approval is $1,338,376.59, reflecting $235,642.46 for regular payables and $1,102,734.13 for payroll. Council, do you have any questions, or are there any items you wish to remove from the consent calendar? No. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dick, second by Spiro. This will be a roll call vote.
Counselor Howarth,
Yes.
Counselor Duquette,
Yes.
Counselor Dick,
Yes.
Counselor Spiro,
Yes.
Counselor Rule,
Yes.
Counselor Schreiber.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, we will hold a public hearing for the purpose of taking testimony on proposed amendments to City Code Title 12, Development Impact Fee Regulations. For the record, any written comments received were forwarded to the City Council, if received in time to do so. At this time, I will let Director Welker get set up, and I will yield the floor to Community Planning and Development Director Jason Welker and Senior Planner Bill Dean.
Thank you, Mayor. We don't have a long, elaborate presentation for you tonight. Rather, I'm just going to pull up our staff report and focus specifically on the timeline, so we can review how we got to where we are tonight, which is a hearing over the amendment of Title 12, which is our Development Impact Fee Ordinance. This process really kicked off in 2024 when we adopted our comprehensive plan. As you can see, by the way, I'd like to thank Bill Dean, our city planner, for preparing the staff report. I left on vacation the day that this was due, so thank you, Bill. Great work. And for those of you who had a chance to read it, he did a really good job outlining the goals and objectives from our comprehensive plan that development impact fees are really intended to support. But what I want to look at here is just the history of the development of the impact fee study that was adopted on July 16th. That process took place over about a year from the time we adopted our comprehensive plan last summer. There were several meetings between our consultants at Tischler Bice out of Boise and our development impact fee advisory committee, which, as you probably know, is made up of our Planning and Zoning Commission plus one representative from the local developer community. So the consultants in Boise worked with city staff, department heads in public works, in parks, community development, in fire, police, and the study that emerged in June of this year was one that included proposed fees to really represent development's impact on our essential infrastructure. So the 5 categories included in the development impact fee study were parks, police, fire, streets, and pathways. So whenever a new project is permitted in Sandpoint, along with their building permit fees, with their sewer and water hookup fees, there will be development impact fees assessed at the time of building permit issuance. Those fees have been presented to you multiple times in the last few months, and those were adopted in the fee schedule just 2 weeks ago. The next step and the final step in the implementation of the new fees is the amendment to this Title 12 ordinance. So state law requires that fees may not go into effect until 30 days after an ordinance adopting those fees is adopted by council. The reason we needed to bring this to you tonight was that the ordinance that was on the books for the last 14 years made reference to the previous development impact fee study, which was completed by Tischler Weiss in 2011. So the changes you saw, it's one of the most minimal, code amendments you're likely to see. Simply had the year of the study crossed out and replaced with the 2025 development impact fee study by Tischler Weiss. Additionally, we made Bill noticed one discrepancy in the ordinance relating to credits and reimbursements. Those are not the same thing. The previous version of this code did kind of conflate credits and reimbursements. So we simply added one line here, pulling out credits, which are issued to developers who are converting use of a structure or expanding use of a structure. For example, if you're turning a shoe store into an apartment building, you're going to get credit for the impact fees the shoe store would have paid sometime in the past. Reimbursements would be if your new impact fee is lower than what had previously been paid, there would be a reimbursement coming to you. So we just separated those out in the code. Other than that, the only changes in this code are the year of the impact fees adoption, which in this case is now 2025. So you can see we've crossed out 2011 and we've referenced the new development impact fee study. So that brings us to tonight. You have some options tonight. You can adopt the amendment as presented. If you do that, then and no other further action is taken, then these impact fees will go into effect 30 days from today, which is October 3rd. There is a public hearing, of course. This is a big issue that affects everybody in Sandpoint. So I think I'm going to wrap my presentation up and let you ask any questions if you have them. Otherwise, we can open the public hearing.
Council members, first, are there any questions for Director Welker?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
So I guess for Bill and Jason, can you kind of tell us where we're at for development right now as we sit versus where we were this time last year?
Not sure we understand the question. As council's been advised, there will be no specific discussion regarding any particular project in relationship to a citywide adoption of ordinance.
In terms of a particular project, right? But we can know how many, where are we at for housing starts, building permits? How does that compare? Are we lower than we were the previous year? Are we tremendously up?
We're probably a little bit lower in terms of pending permits for housing. There have been, quite a few projects that were in the pipeline a year ago and are still in the pipeline today. So we don't always get daily, we never get daily updates from developers. We don't know exactly why developers might be sitting on an entitlement, sitting on a permit. Obviously, there's a lot of macro variables that are probably affecting decisions by developers right now. But it's probably as far as building permits in the pipeline right now, it's slightly lower than it was a year ago. But it's not like a huge difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
I seem to remember we did this several months back and we were at 25% of the development that we were in the previous year and the year previous to that. But I don't remember exactly what that was for, if that was for building permits specifically.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of hard to say how many building permits there are because before building permit applications or submittals are complete, there's so many other steps in the process, right? I mean, so many of these are tied to short plats or subdivisions or CUPs or PUDs or whatever it may be. So we're in multiple projects are at various phases right now, but how many of those are pending building permits? I think we have 34 building permits right now that are, in the next couple of weeks are likely to be sent out the door, which is not nothing. I mean, it's not 25% what it was a year ago. It might be 80% what it was a year ago.
Okay. And then do we have an idea do we have any projects that their timeline is going to expire here before the end of the year or within maybe the next 6 months?
Yeah. Expiring?
Yeah.
Yeah, building permits have a 6-month shelf life. Once it's issued, you have to move dirt within 6 months. There are some that have been issued within 6 months that are probably just going to expire before this year, and they'll have to reapply for another building permit. Again, availability of contractors is often an issue. Someone gets a building permit, they think they have a contractor lined up, that person gets sidetracked. They may just not get the work done get the work started before the permit expires. So yeah, there's some number of those, but that's normal.
Without naming any specific projects, are you currently working with any developers right now on extensions?
Not for building permits, I don't think can be extended, can they?
What about CUPs, anything else?
No, no extension requests. We had, one CUP expire earlier this year. Actually, they've just reapplied for a new CUP without specifics. So, that happens.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Councilman Howarth.
Jason and Mr. Dean, just real quick, can you refresh me and refresh all of us our memory of when we last updated the impact fee? Was it last year we did
From what I understand, the last impact fee study was 2011, so 14 years ago. Per state law, I believe we're required to reevaluate them every 5 years. So we were 9 years overdue for a new impact fee study. And during most of the last decade, there were no annual increases in impact fees. So for this fiscal year's budget, we did an across the board 30%, I believe, 30 increase in impact fees, 35%. I think that's right. And that was basically to catch up on 13 years of no increases. So that reflected 13 years of inflation, basically, which, if we're honest, it was probably greater than 35% with the inflation we had in 2021, 2022. Okay. So this adjustment looked, looked at the various infrastructure service areas included in the impact fees, and we revisited our capital improvement plans that hadn't been updated since 2011. We looked at our existing level of service across all those infrastructure and service areas, and that's what we used to form the new basis for our impact fees.
and then second question, going forward, what is our new policy or procedure going to be? Are we going to update it every 5 years accordance with state code? Are we going to do it more frequently? Can you give us a sense of what you guys are thinking about?
Assuming you have the staff you have now in 5 years, we're going to keep doing this every 5 years for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I assume, I'm guessing with turnover, this is one of those efforts that just kind of falls through the cracks. But as long as I'm in this position, we'll be doing this every 5 years.
Thank you.
I will say that as long as I'm mayor, I will be doing it every 5 years as well. Any other questions for Director Welker at this time?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Councilman Schreiber.
Yeah, I did notice there was one other adjustment to some of the ordinance, and that is 1211A5. Something to the effect of improvements shall first be included in a capital improvement plan. And I don't have an issue with that. My only question is that throughout this whole process, a couple of us have expressed concern on some of the projects that are identified in our CIPs. Does that change in ordinance affect our ability to revise those CIPs to include new or different projects?
No, it does not.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure.
You're going to update your CIP likely every year.
Excellent.
Right. And
I answered it.
correct. Okay. Gotcha. I will point out that one area that was struck out was the reference to impact fees within the area of city impact. That was 1211A5 actually. So we crossed out 1211A5 because a few weeks ago, council voted to eliminate our area of city impact.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Council President.
My question was related to the impact administratively to implement these fees behind the scenes, get them all entered into the computers, et cetera. And so I guess I'm asking the time frame in which staff can comfortably do that. I know that we have a minimum of 30 days, which it can go into effect, but does staff need time until the end of the year to make sure that we have all the, bugs worked out of the system before it goes live?
Pull up my screen one more time just to show you what we're really talking about here. This is not like 4 numbers that get plugged in. This is our updated impact fees here, as approved 2 weeks ago in the budget. Every single one of these lines for every category of impact fee for retail, office, institutional, light industrial, manufacturing, for parks, for pathways, for streets, for police, for fire. It's probably about 100 different items that have to be entered in. And that is an effort that's going to take considerable staff time. And the staff person who would normally do this is on maternity leave right now. So we are very understaffed. So I do think that staff could use some additional time to implement these. We're quite thin in the building department right now. This is our permit tech and plans examiner who typically does this work. So that I'd agree, Councilwoman Rule, that a little extra time might be beneficial to staff as far as implementing the. You can see I'm still scrolling. There's well over 100 lines that needs to be entered into our system. So
60 days.
Are you asking for a specific timeline?
Maybe a ballpark, would the end of the year be appropriate, or is just an additional 30 days appropriate?
I think end of the year would probably be adequate for us. That would get our permit tech back. She has about 11 weeks remaining on her maternity leave. So end of the year seems like a reasonable time frame for administratively for us to implement the new fees.
Okay, thank you.
Any other council questions? I have one for Director Welker. Director Welker, in light of the fact that our fees have gone up in some categories pretty significantly, it struck me that in some cases, fees could be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and those are due presently at the time of building permit application. What are your thoughts if the council were friendly to the idea of incorporating a mechanism that would allow developers with significant impact fees due to delay those until occupancy of the structure, so they're not having to pay interest or capitalize that money for potentially multiple years until the actual occupancy is occurring?
Mr. Mayor, if I might comment on your comment.
Go ahead, Councilperson.
I think over my years of sitting up here on the dais, I come to understand that if you leave fees until the time of occupancy, you have very small jaws with which to enforce them. And so fees should be paid up front, because you can run into problems of delays and not getting the fees because a lot of money has already been spent on their project. So my understanding and the way most of the other cities do that is they collect the impact fees with the building permits. And I did have, I believe, a discussion quite some time ago, maybe with Fonda or one of our other attorneys, that verified that it's probably better for the city to get those fees up front, because you have more to work with.
True. I totally respect and understand that, and the unknowns of what happens once a project starts. Jason or Bill, do you have thoughts on that?
I just encourage that any, well, first of all, any proposal to do that would need to be incorporated into Title 12. So we need to bring a version of this code back allowing for that, because it's pretty clear, as the staff report indicated, the new development impact fee shall be paid and collected at the time of issuance of building permit. No building permit or other equivalent city approval shall be issued for development as herein defined unless the impact fee is paid pursuant to this chapter. So if council did wish to allow for some sort of contract to be entered into to defer impact fee payments, you could direct staff to incorporate that. I don't have a strong opinion on it, other than that I would urge it to require an airtight contract, because occupancy, we've seen projects in town that basically ignore their occupancy permit and they start using their building or their facility without occupancy. There's really no enforcement we can do at that point. As Councilwoman Brohl pointed out, once a project's done, there's nothing we can hold back from them if they don't really care about. I mean, without, whatever the project is, a completed building can be used by its own without an occupancy permit. We don't have a strong enforcement mechanism. They may not be able to sell it. No one could buy it and finance it without occupancy, but a completed project could be used without occupancy permits. That's just a piece of paper that we issue. So we would need an airtight contract to assure that, not only would occupancy permit might not be strong enough of an incentive to require payment of impact fees, is what I'm saying. There would have to be some other recourse if a developer chose to just shrug us off when that bill came due.
Such as turning on the utilities, maybe.
Could be.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. If there's no other questions, does anyone have a conflict of interest related to this matter? Let's go from the right. I believe there are.
No.
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 Excellent.
No.
Okay. All right, we'll now proceed with the public hearing. Please note that city policy provides that the presiding officer may allow gifted time during a public hearing where you may gift your time to someone else. The person gifting may do so only once, and the person receiving may receive only one gift for a total of up to 6 minutes. If you are gifted time, please state as much when you begin speaking and state the name of the person who gifted you their time. Both parties must be present here in the chambers. Otherwise, each speaker will have up to 3 minutes. Please note that the rules of decorum, as recited earlier, are in effect. If you are on Zoom and wish to testify, you may raise your hand at this time. I would ask that in the interest of time that those testifying please not repeat testimony that has already been given by others. If you'd like to please simply indicate that you are in agreement with those who have testified before you, that is great. Public hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, please call the first speaker.
Mr. Mayor, we have Barbara Egret.
Good evening, Mr. Eaker.
My name's David Ekert. I was having difficulty hearing all this conversation, probably because I'm old and I'm getting hearing aids tomorrow. So please bear with me if I missed a few notches on this. The purpose of my comments are to, I'm focused specifically on the $100 million hotel proposal, the old Edgewater, i.e. 56 Bridge Street. And I think we're at a major inflection point on a decision. And as I understand it, this is about timing of development impact fees when they occur. It's my understanding that initially when the conditional use permit occurred on this, that there was approximately $300,000. It's also per the paper and other communication that this is going to jump by a net $1 million. Now, in the context of the price of the major size of this project vis-a-vis, let's just compare it to the sewer, which is 130 million. We're talking about $100 million project here. Let me give you a little bit of background from my perspective, because I think I may have some qualifications to speak to this. I'm a land use economist. I've done over 500 projects over the 40 years, including economic benefit studies for 7 Boeing plants for Boeing. And when you do that, there's a quid pro quo between the developer and what he's doing, and also what the city is going to do in turn. And in every case, from Renton to Bellevue to Everett, there was a win-win situation whereby the city gave and the community and the developer gave to come out with a workable solution for the greater good of the community. In terms of specifics of an economic benefit, there are several outputs. One is jobs. And you have jobs during construction, which this will be a 2.5-year project, the hotel. And so those are non-recurring but high-paying jobs. Once the project's completed, you're going to have recurring jobs. Those all have spin benefits in the form of income, which those jobs spend money here. On top of that, once the project is complete, the expectation is you're going to have $80 to $100 million spend throughout the community, i.e. a multiplicative impact.
My apologies for interrupting. Mr. Ekert, is Barbara gifting you her time?
Yes, could I use the time for Barbara? Thank you.
Thank you.
So you're going to have a multiplicative impact on your community. This is a major project. This needs to be addressed. In terms of property taxes, from the point of view of a city, I said we've got job outputs, we've got impact outputs, but from the point of view of a city, which we're talking about here, you've got $500,000 to $700,000 a year going to accrue to this community through property taxes. That's a crude estimate. You're also going to have a couple of $1 billion, $2 to $2.4 million per year for short-term resort taxes coming into the community. These are big wins. My question is, if we've got a project of this magnitude and we look at the opportunity cost of it not occurring, think what that does to this community. How often do you see a $100 million private sector project that will change the complexion of the waterfront and the community? So bottom line, I think that somehow you're going to have to figure out how to grandfather the situation for the conditional use permit whereby that $1 million is not imputed on this project. Now, it's a timing issue. I know that you're talking about timing. I know that's the decision you're talking about tonight, not whether you do or not add impact fees. But I just feel strongly that there has to be a way for this project to proceed and mitigate this front-end impact cost, because you're going to get a perpetual annuity forever in property taxes and resort city fees. I mean, that's phenomenal that you're going to get that. So let's not miss this opportunity. This is a golden opportunity for this community. I've been talking and worked the personal owner on this since 1980 about this project. I also did the economic impact studies for downtown Spokane in about 1980 to 81. So I have a little bit of knowledge of this community. I've been around here and been a taxpayer for 46 years. So please consider some way, whatever it is, to mitigate the $1 million additional. It's a net number, not a gross number. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Eaker. Appreciate your comments.
Mr. Mayor, we have Jace Bordenave.
Members of the City Council, thank you for your time. I would like to speak on considering extending the deadline for the new impact fees going into place. My question for the council is why would we consider extending the deadline to accommodate one particular applicant developer? If Averill Hospitality can't make the project feasible with the new fees, then why would we accommodate them and not others? These fees affect all who want to build and develop. If this new fee schedule is what the city assesses will be needed to build for the future, then why would we give a break on a project that carries so much impact? If it costs the hotel almost $1 million more than the original fee schedule, then isn't that $1 million the city needs for improvements? It seems like extending the deadline of implementation only extends the burden to the applicants down the road, while the applicant who arguably has deeper pockets gets a pass. We talk about affordability in housing all the time, but as the fees rise for more development, then it raises the cost down the line for the average home buyer. It's hard enough to be competitive in the market as it is. If we are giving breaks for big development, then why are we not exploring ways to give breaks for people who want to build homes to live in? The narrative is that the hotel will bring in so much income and it's advantageous for the community, but I have to say, Sandpoint has no problem attracting tourism and tourist dollars. We already made a deal with the hospitality or with Averill in the first place when we traded the beachfront lawn space that the public enjoyed for a dirt parking lot that is rented out to RV campers. I ask how many concessions we are going to give to a hotel developer. I also pose the question, are we a city council that is planning a community for the future, or are we rubber stamping big development with little thought on how it impacts the community, infrastructure, and city itself? I simply ask that if you adopt these fees, you adopt them without special consideration for one particular developer. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you considering my comments.
Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Mayor, next we have Paul Vogel.
My name is Paul Vogel. I am not a city resident. We were talking about history of Bonner County earlier with regard to the question as to whether imposition of impact fees should be delayed. I think we should take a look at the history of this project. And I've lost track of it over time. And so I may be off. But if you don't know the history of this project before you make a decision, maybe you should. When I talk about the history of the project, I'm talking about going back to the early 60s when the Cox family developed the Edgewater. They leased, it's my understanding, the lawn from the city for $500 a year for 20 years. That lease was renewed in the mid 80s for another 20 years. And I think the lease maybe went up to $5,000 a year. It was like the best waterfront in North Idaho. And if we have any pride, we can go ahead and say the best waterfront in the state. So the city has a long history of accommodating development on this site. And I think that should change. It is not a good look, not at all. Then we had the land trade. Again, the best waterfront in the state possibly. And what did we trade it for? A parking lot on a creek underneath a byway and a railroad overpass. Done, I believe, back during COVID. I mean, that slipped through. It was a shame. Haven't we already accommodated this developer in lieu of parking fees? I know the in lieu of parking fee is part of the ordinance, but weren't they given a concession without any kind of public hearing, without any kind of review? Instead of paying the ordinance mandated amount per parking space they did not provide, that they've already been given an accommodation there. Earlier, we were talking about the impact on parks. That's why we have development fees. My God, what kind of impact is this going to be on City Beach? They are being gifted so much as it is because they don't have to provide horseshoes, basketball, volleyball, barbecue grills, shelters. They have it all gifted to them right there by the city. And if it's going to be 2 years, then that's a lot of impact on City Beach and enjoyment on City Beach. So it is important that we get these impact fees. What do you tell home builders, developers, if you give this to the developer at City Beach or adjacent to City Beach? What do you tell homeowners that have to pay $10,000 in impact fees, or that amount of money is passed on to them to build a home?
Mr. Vogel, unless someone has gifted you time, if you could wrap up. Sorry to
Okay, thank
interrupt you there.
Yeah, that's it. It's time to say no. The impact fees exist for a reason. Disagree with Mr. Akrit. If this is a $100 million project, $1 million is 1% of their outlay. If they can't afford that, let them sell the property to someone who will pay the development fees. Thank you.
For your comments, Mr. Vogel.
Mr. Mayor, next we have Ben McGran.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good
Council
evening,
members.
Mr. McGran.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Ben McGran. I'm a resident of Dover, and I'm representing Alvarado Hospitality this evening. I'm here to request a delay in the implementation of the recently adopted impact fees that doubled from $3,500 per lodging room to $7,700. Our project is complex, hotel redevelopment. We are actively working toward building permit submittal, which is complex due to the structural systems and our desire to build the best hotel we can for Sandpoint community and visitors. The city planning department has advised that to lock in the permit, impact, and utility fees, we need an improved building permit. Our request and delay takes into account the time it will take for the city building department to review, comment, and approve our complex building permit. With the uncertainty of permit approved timeline from the city, combined with the sudden fee increase, creates a moving target that makes it impossible to finalize financing and keep the project viable. At its core, this is about priorities. The city may gain a one-time impact fee of $1.3 million, which is $1 million more than the current impact fee. But once this hotel opens and is operating, Sandpoint will collect $12 to $17 million in occupancy tax revenue over 7 years of operation, the 14% taxes in place. This reoccurring revenue supports infrastructure, park improvements, services, and the community year after year. So I ask you, is it not better to secure the long-term tax stream rather than losing it for the sake of a one-time fee? And I want to be clear, the idea of deferring payment until certificate of occupancy or using urban renewal dollars does not solve the problem. Lenders underwrite the entire cost of a project up front. Higher fees still increase the capital requirements, and that financial gap cannot be bridged simply by delaying the timing of the payment. What we are asking is reasonable. We respectfully request the council to extend the implementation of the new impact fees to August of 2026 to align with our approved conditional use permit. That timeline accounts for the complexities of the design process, the uncertainties in the city review, and the time needed to reach building permit approval. This extension would not reduce the city's ability to collect impact fees from future projects, but to ensure projects already in the pipeline can proceed and begin producing economic benefits Sandpoint deserves. Jobs, business activity, and millions in occupancy tax revenue to fund the very infrastructure improvements these impact fees are meant to support. This is not about avoiding responsibility. It's about striking a balance between short-term fees and long-term prosperity. I will note the current hotel is closed and no longer taking reservations. We all know this project has opportunity to help our community. Let's work together to make it a success. Thank you for your time and consideration in delaying impact fees to August of 2026.
Thank you, Mr. McGran.
Mr. Mayor, no one else has signed up at this time.
Are there any other members of the public who haven't testified who wish to do so? This will be the last opportunity before the hearing is closed. Mr. Excuse me, Doug. Go ahead. Been a long day.
Hi, my name's Tom Russell. I'm a resident of Sandpoint, and I had a long list of things I was going to mention, but I believe his name was Bordenave, said pretty much everything I was going to say. So rather than that, I'd like to just pose a hypothetical. I was thinking of building a house within the next year, but boy, these impact fees are really going to shut me down. I've lived here for 20 years. I anticipate living here for another 20 years and paying taxes. Can you guys give me a break and delay implementing these impact fees so that I can build my house? Otherwise, I won't be able to do it. Seems like a pretty equivalent ask, isn't it? Why would you consider that for somebody but not for me? Just something to think about. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Mr. Mayor, no one else has signed up at this time.
All right, I will now ask the clerk. I'm sorry, we'll now move on to the action item on the agenda for deliberation. The public hearing is now closed. Deliberation on the decision on the proposed ordinance. Council, any discussion or deliberation at this moment before there's a motion one way or the other?
Mr. Mayor, I'm a little confused. Maybe I missed something the past couple of months, but I don't recall. Oh, sorry, my throat. I don't recall a specific project to be exempt if there were any timeline given or extension. Wouldn't that, if we tonight agreed to extend it to whatever time we desire, that would benefit anybody with impact fees, right? Not just a particular project.
The impact fees are paid at time of building permit submittal and approval, I'm hearing. Submittal. So one can submit a building permit anytime until this ordinance goes into effect, which I believe is October 3rd is the estimate. They would pay the old impact fees. After that, they would pay the new impact fees.
What I'm asking is, it seems like the sentiment or the idea is this council or the mayor or staff focused on a particular project and nobody else, but that's not my understanding of the past few meetings. Is that correct?
I would say we've heard from representatives from an individual project, but
Right, from this dais, though,
we've
we
been-
have not seen
we've been
about a
looking
project.
holistically at the fee schedule and implementation.
So everybody would benefit from a timeline change or not benefit.
Yes, arguably, yes. Yeah. Any other council discussion at this point or deliberation?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Councilman
May I
Howard.
ask a clarifying question for Mr. Dean? We all understand that the hotel project is a complex project, but is it really that complex that it needs a year to get the building permit completed? Because that's what they're asking, is to delay the fees for a year because they're saying their building permit is complex.
I'm really remiss to speak about any individual project tonight, purposefully gonna not talk about that. It's not my experience that organizing around construction documents, it takes time, but I'm not gonna assign a time value to that. I really think it'd be remiss to talk about any individual project in this meeting whatsoever.
Do you have any further questions?
No, go ahead.
I have a question for either Director Welker or Mr. Dean, and I guess maybe Pete, our building inspector. In the process, so if this ordinance were to pass and go into effect October 3rd, if somebody came in with a building permit application on October 2nd, they would pay our current fees. And they pay them at the time of building permit submission. In the past year, that year and a half you've been here, have you ever seen building permits be adjusted? So you apply, oh my gosh, we get out on site and we have a change to the building permit. We're gonna make this deck a little bigger. Can we revise our building permit? And if so, what is the process for impact fees?
Well, great question. Let me explain how it works. First of all, when you have a complete submittal, there's a number of things you have to submit in order to obtain a building permit. There's a checklist you have to go through. And once the submittal has been found complete, that essentially is the date that the fees that are on the city system are the fees that are going to be required to be paid. Once that permit is issued, which is different, you submit for it, it's got to go through a review process, and typically it takes rounds of review. Prior to it being issued is when those fees are due. So just for the record, development impact fees are not due when you go to apply for a building permit. It's prior to you picking it up.
Okay.
So I just want to be clear about that. Is that understood by everybody? Okay.
So in theory, just to follow up, these went into effect October 3rd. Someone came in for a very small addition to their house, a new bedroom. They could conceivably get that issuance, I'm guessing, in a month. But a larger project might take a month and a half, 2 months, 3 months to determine, completion, a complete application.
Depends on a lot of factors. Some people hire design professionals that know the codes and know how to navigate the codes and have complete submittals, and the round of review is actually fairly straightforward. That's not always the case. We have, buildings can be complicated, codes can be complicated, and it can take a little bit of time. If someone comes in and makes a submittal, and through the process of the review, they're going to learn something as well. Maybe the cost of construction because of a comment led you in this direction or that direction, you might have to modify your permit. At that point, we're not asking you to reapply. We're just continuing the review and to ensure that it meets our customers' objectives.
And just a quick final follow-up there. Have you witnessed or are you aware of building permits that are issued and then the applicant comes back and does add a second bedroom? They decide they want, a second level or something. So once a permit's issued, impact fees have been paid, they come back and modify their building permit. Do we have a process that allows that?
Happens all the time. I would stand to argue that there's probably hundreds of structures in Sandpoint that have gone through multiple rounds of building permits over the decades.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, council members, I would entertain.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilman Dick.
Thank you, everybody, for coming this evening. It's great to see a packed house and that we've got this many people here. In terms of all the public comment, I think everybody is right. a lot of the impact fees, not doing it for 9 years, timing really is everything, right? And we are at an interesting time where we have to balance our growth, our infrastructure needs, our affordability. And I think we're in much more of a volatile state than anyone ever knows. I think when we look at the stock market and we see that we're up the highest it's been in 10 years, we say, oh gosh, everything is really good. But the reality, especially as being a small business owner in this community and a homeowner, inflation is close to 3% right now in the United States, maybe more. Core inflation in Canada is somewhere 3% or more. Both of them have, really delicate renting and shelter costs with a jump of up to 40% since 2020 here. And I can't tell you how many times we've been on this dais in the last 4 years, or at least in my last 4 years, and we've talked about affordability, right? And affordability specific to rent and shelter for the locals. We're also facing, some of the other things that we're facing right now. New vehicle costs. The average new vehicle cost in the United States is almost $50,000, which is a 30% increase from 2020. Almost a 50% increase from 2015. Housing interest rates have doubled since 2020 for qualified buyers as well. That's your 800 plus credit scores. In some cases, they've gone up 3 to 5x from there. Development interest rates are at 3 to 5 times more than they were in 2020. And the overall cost of living in Idaho has raised at least 25% from 2020. And again, I go back to timing is everything. We're not necessarily looking at one particular developer over another developer. Jace, you made excellent comments about your small builders, right? When we're talking about affordability, I think a lot of times we look in and we say, all right, can we restrict growth by putting fees on and using these impact fees to do this? And I sat down with a couple of professors from U of I on Monday, I believe it was. We had a very interesting discussion that, a lot of us as locals, we fight development all the time. And we say we don't want development. What ends up happening is we run into these basic supply and demand type of issues here, where we don't get the housing that we want, right? We're not having more new houses being single family residents being built. There's not a whole lot of new commercial real estate that is being built. And at some point in time, right, the demand for that raises the price. And the very people, or myself, that are saying, we don't want development in here, we end up pushing ourselves out and making it less attainable for not only our population, but for the next generations to come to be able to live here. And we open up the door for more out-of-state purchasers as we come through again. We're also in this tricky situation of the infrastructure that we have right now is so beat that, for the last 50 years, we've deferred maintenance for one reason or another, whether it was for lack of resources, it was for the lack of foresight. I mean, we could talk about this all night long here. But those impact fees that we're going to be taking are also going to be for the most part, new infrastructure, right? Acquiring new parks, maybe the addition of some parks amenities that we get, designing and developing new pathways to help with the development, not going and fixing up old streets that we've got in the downtown corridor as well. I think over the course of the last couple of meetings, myself and a few other counselors, because of this wildly high jump in the impact fees that we have right now, which is based off of our capital needs, I kind of go back to this timing is everything, right? And maybe we're not there for the timing. What we've already seen, if we've seen developers that have come in and they're getting savvier and they're scraping the bottom of the barrel of the code that we have, because as a body, we're very reactive when a developer comes in and takes a look at a code. And without speaking about anybody specifically, Let's just say we have a residential development in downtown that has many units and no parking, right? And now the developer has been able to do that because we have to react to it, and we can't react fast enough for the code. On that same point, I think we need to be looking at better development. How can we potentially either phase this to make sure that we get more housing, we get better design, offer waivers for the type of development that we potentially want for starter homes or workforce housing. Again, I think it's too much too quickly right now. And I think it has the ability for some very drastic problems and a very slippery slope that we may incur coming down the pipeline in the next 10 to 20 years with these impact fees.
Thank you, Councilman Dick.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Councilman Howard.
I'll just thank you for your comments, and I think you're spot on, Councilor Dick. I'll just say one other point. No fault of anyone, but as we heard earlier, the last study that we did as a city was 2011 for the impact fees. We've waited 14, almost 15 years now to update those. And I think given everything that we heard from Councilor Dick, I don't see that there is an urgency or a rush to go implement these impact fees. And so we've heard requests of August 2026 or some date into the future that would be applicable to all projects. There is no desire on this council, I believe, to go give special preference to any one project. But if we delay it for every developer in a city. And so I look at 15 years of no urgency to improve or to go implement higher impact fees. And now we're trying to go rush into it and say it's got to be October 3rd. I think that's a fictitious argument. And I would be very willing to go delay it to a 2026 time TBD by this council. But again, given the overall input we've heard from the community, I just don't see there's a need to rush into the impact to the starting of this new impact schedule.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Councilman Howard. Councilwoman, Council President Rule.
I guess I would counter that argument, whereas we have been subsidizing for 15 years people who are large developers that can build very large subdivisions or other developments, commercial developments. I can't tell you the number of times that I've heard people come into the council chambers and bring their pom-poms and want us to do something about the Baldy Mountain property and continue that as a park. These impact fees are all related to those types of things. So I think we need to stop subsidizing development. Everybody's dealing with inflation and managing inflation. But I struggle. I think it would be, in my opinion, very appropriate to allow the staff time and potentially if this council were willing to push that to January 1st so that we can make sure that we have all these things ready to go. I guess that would be a bigger buffer for those people that are really wanting to start doing a project, but I would be looking at it relative to the time that this city and this staff needs to start collecting the fees that they are due. I guess the other property I would mention is this council decided that it was also important to obtain the old railroad property behind the motel and adjacent to Super One grocery store as an extension of our trails and connections, which is also in our comp plan. So all of these things are going to be truly affected by not collecting impact fees. And impact fees are absolutely and not necessarily connected to what the cliche term of affordable housing is. So I think that's something different, and if the city needs to have different ordinances and different sets of rules to allow those types of developments to happen, it's a separate argument from the current impact fees.
Any other council discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilman Shriver.
Yeah, I agree with the council president that we've already given a 9-year extension on this, and every minute that we postpone it longer is another minute that all of these costs fall on the backs of our current residents and our tax-paying constituents. So I'm open to ensuring that staff has adequate time to fulfill their functions, but I think the appropriate time to implement these fees was 9 years ago, and waiting longer is not going to fix that.
Thank you, Councilman Shriver. Councilwoman Duquette, do you have any
Yes.
comments or thoughts?
I do. I guess the only thing I have to say is no matter when they're implemented, someone's going to have to pay the higher fees. We said before, this was the time we wanted to do this. We had already had the vote in that earlier meeting in July. Somebody's gonna, yeah, I don't see a reason for delaying myself, I guess.
Thank you, Councilwoman Duquette. A procedural question for either staff or legal. If the council did want to change the effective date or set the effective date, is that going to proceed during a motion after the title of the ordinance is read or before?
So that would need to happen before.
Right now, then?
I would make a motion to, would it be amend?
To amend the proposed ordinance to have an effective date of
January 1, 2026.
A motion by Council President Rule to amend the ordinance for an effective date of January 1st, 2026. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Shriver. Discussion?
I would just add to what has already been said by pointing out that the mayor campaigned as a candidate on the idea that he was going to update the impact fees. It was in his strategic plan from when he first took office. We've had a development impact fee study advisory committee for a year now. We've had multiple hearings on this. This is not a surprise to anyone. It shouldn't be sneaking up on anyone. There's been years that this has been upcoming.
Councilman Schreiber, any other discussion? This will be a roll call vote to amend the effective date to January 1st, 2026.
Counselor Rule,
Yes.
Counselor Schreiber,
Yes.
Counselor Duquette,
Ooh, sorry, can't find my buttons. Delay
We
till-
can hear you.
Okay, delay till January.
Yep. Yeah, effective date when they go into effect.
I'm thinking. Can't come back to me. For staff time?
Yes.
Yes.
Counselor Dick,
No.
Counselor Howarth,
No.
Counselor Spiro.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, motion passes.
All right. I will now ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Sandpoint, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, amending Sandpoint certain sections of City Code Title 12, Chapter 1, Development Impact Fee Regulations, providing for severability and providing for publication and an effective date.
Ready to entertain a motion that the ordinance pass its first reading by title only and the summary is approved.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Roll, second by Dick. This will be a roll call. Any discussion? This will be a roll call vote.
Counselor Rule,
Yes.
Counselor Howarth,
Yes.
Counselor Spiro,
Yes.
Counselor Duquette,
Yes.
Counselor Schreiber,
Yes.
Counselor Dick.
Yes.
The ordinance has been passed in its first reading by title only, and the summary is approved. I would entertain a motion that the rules requiring 3 separate readings, once in the ordinance entirety, be suspended, and the ordinance passed its second and third readings under suspension of the rules.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by President Rule, second by Councilman Dick. This will be a roll call vote.
Counselor Duquette,
Yes.
Counselor Dick,
Yes.
Counselor Schreiber,
Yes.
Counselor Spiro,
Yes.
Counselor Howard,
Yes.
Counselor Rule.
Yes.
Motion passes. The ordinance is considered read, passed, and adopted under suspension of the rules. Thank you, everyone, for your comments and perspectives. Moving on to new business. As reflected on the agenda, because we've just one discussion item under old business, we'll first take up new business to ensure we are accommodating any members of the public who may be in attendance, particularly regarding the Historical Society lease discussion. And we'll now move on to that item. Whoever is going to be presenting from the Historical Society. Good evening, Hannah.
All this history, we fit right in.
Making history tonight.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Bonner County Historical Society and Museum. My name is Hannah Combs. I am the Executive Director of the Historical Society. I, like many people in this room, did not grow up in Sandpoint or Bonner County. I came here by chance, and I stayed because of the way people here care for each other and for this place. When I first walked through the doors of the Bonner County History Museum, this vague sensibility of being in a meaningful place was transformed into something concrete through the stories I learned there. My own experiences suddenly fit into the context of the thousands of people who have called this place home. In the museum's exhibits, I've stood in awe of a photograph of women hiking to the top of Scotchman's Peak in 1901 in petticoats, inspired by their undaunted sense of adventure. I've been moved to tears listening to a Historical Society member describe her 11-year-old grandmother quarantined from her family during a 1940s polio outbreak, playing tic-tac-toe with her grandmother through a frosted shed window just to stay connected, which made me realize the inconveniences of my COVID experience weren't too much to handle after all. I've watched visitors holding each other's hands while listening to oral history recordings of their grandfather, one whispering, "I just wanted to hear his voice again." The more I've learned about the people who have made this place home, the more I feel anchored here, the more I belong and want to contribute to Sandpoint's future. And I'm not alone in this experience. The Bonner County Historical Society belongs in the heart of Sandpoint because it helps residents see themselves as part of something larger, connected to this place and its ongoing story. For our children, history teaches them to look up from their screens and opens their eyes to the wonders around them. It inspires curious exploration, not only of the place where they live, but of the people they can become. For those of us who have ever felt adrift, history provides a sense of belonging in the face of uncertainty. We learn to better listen to and empathize with our neighbors by understanding the hardships this community has weathered and the resilient spirit that has carried us through. For our elders, the museum provides a sacred space where their voices are heard and their contributions are honored. We have the privilege of sharing their stories, and most importantly, of showing them how profoundly meaningful their lives have been. This is what the Bonner County Historical Society does every single day. It helps us discover our place in the grand story of this remarkable community. This sense of belonging transforms visitors into invested community members and residents into people who don't just live in Sandpoint, but actively build its future.
Hi, I'm Tanya Sherman and I'm the board president. I also did not grow up in Sandpoint, but I came here as a child to visit family, fish, and ski. When my husband and I married, I agreed to a prenup. And that was that we would live west of the Rockies and within an hour of snow skiing. For us, Sandpoint was the dream. We worked over a decade to make it real. What I love most about Sandpoint is no longer the mountains or the lake. It's the way I've made connections to the people in this community, like Hannah and Will. And like Hannah, I discovered the Bonner County Historical Society and the museum as a place where I can listen and learn from other generations. And I incorporate their lessons into my life. Our story with the city of Sandpoint stretches back more than 70 years. In 1953, one woman's vision, Dr. Ethel Page Westwood, sparked something lasting when she opened a tiny museum in a Sandpoint High School classroom. By 1954, the city began providing space, but the collection was moved around repeatedly and sometimes damaged. And that went on until 1972, and neighbors formally came together to create the Bonner County Historical Society. Just a year later, in 1973, the city council asked us to help reimagine the old fairgrounds at Lakeview Park. And there's some really cool pictures so we can visualize this. And that was when the idea of a permanent museum space began. Though we serve all of Bonner County, our founders and city leaders intentionally placed the museum in Lakeview Park. That's the heart of Sandpoint, and that was to ensure it would remain a central and welcoming hub, a place where the stories of the entire county could be preserved, celebrated, and shared for generations. The 1979 lease was crafted intentionally, and it created a deep and a permanent partnership. It was a 40-year term at $1 per year. It had automatic renewal for successive 40-year terms at BCH's option. BCHS, Bonner County Historical Society, assumed the full responsibility for utilities, maintenance, and improvements. And if we ever left, the land and building stayed with the city. That is a binding, handcuffed relationship. And we're feeling it now because the costs to move potentially are exponential. The costs to maintain the building have also been building. We're responsible for those. This agreement, again in 1979, gave the public confidence to invest. The city provided the land and the people provided everything else. The lease was bound. It bound the city and BCHS together by design, and it ensured that our shared investment would endure. It was, and it still is, a civic promise. In 2019, Bonner County Historical Society formally exercised its renewal option and submitted the $40 payment as outlined in the lease. The city never acknowledged this payment. However, a second amendment was finally signed in 2023. There's a lot happening during that time period. This reaffirmed the original lease and extended it through September 2025. So here we are. Today, we are operating under the original 1979 lease, which clearly granted us the right to extend for another 40 years at our option. However, on May 29th, after 6 years with multiple meetings with many people involved from both organizations, we were presented with a completely new lease. This lease limits the term to 30 years, changes the renewal to the city's discretion, and future rent is renegotiable. This fundamentally breaks the promise of 1979. This new lease dismantled the partnership and reduced Bonner County Historical Society to a short-term tenant. 30 years may sound like a very long time, but we're talking about a historical society. We're planning for the next 99 years right now. Why does this matter? Bonner County Historical Society stewards 400,000 historical objects. And we serve as the county's primary archive. We've already received $1 million in donations towards our repairs and expansions. But we cannot even launch community visioning sessions until this lease is resolved. We started this process in December of 2024. With a partnership, we can move forward, building a space where children learn, families gather, and stories are preserved for generations. We heard from a caller about their family preservation. The city retains ownership of the land, with Bonner County Historical Society maintaining everything at virtually no cost to the city. Through legislation and annual funding, our mission is supported at the county and state level, and it supports ongoing operations. We also have the most amazing volunteers and donors. The city's role is simply to honor the original lease, provide the stability that allows us to leverage these funds and private donations to care for the collection, expand services, and invest in the future. Imagine Sandpoint without the Historical Society and Museum. If we lose places that bring people together, where does our trust begin? What anchors our community's identity if our history does not have a permanent home or remind our children and Hannah that they are part of something larger? And if the promise of the 1979 lease is not honored, what message does that send about our community's past and its future? So our request, City Council's Bonner County Historical Society Museum is both a place and a promise. And tonight is not about creating something new. It's about upholding a promise made in 1979. It's a civic anchor, a space beyond home and work where true community takes root. More than a museum or a tourist stop, it's where children discover their roots, newcomers find belonging, and those who came before us see their stories live on. It's where strangers become neighbors and the neighbors become community. The promise is simple yet profound. By preserving and sharing our past, we build trust, connection, and a stronger future. And that directly fulfills the city's mission to enhance the quality of life for present and future generations. We respectfully ask you to direct staff to return at your next meeting with a simple confirming amendment that recognizes our timely renewal at the $1 per year rate, affirms the original lease terms, and thus provides the clarity and stability needed for us to fulfill its mission. This would end years of uncertainty and honor the partnership envisioned by the community and the City Council of the 1970s to today. Together, we can protect trust, memory, and belonging for this generation and the next. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, ladies. Thanks for the history, the background. This was not an action item for this evening. The lease will return to council at a future meeting for approval and consideration.
Thank you.
Mhm. Next item under new business is a request for declaration of sole source procurement for equipment needed for our wastewater treatment plant. And I will now yield the floor to Public Works Director Holly Ellis for a brief staff presentation.
One second while I share screen. And as a favor, somebody, Nick would stand at the podium, I'll present tonight. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Holly Ellis, Public Works Director. This is Nick Smith. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, Nick Smith with Stantec, Mr. Mayor, council members.
Welcome.
Tonight, we are here to discuss the wastewater treatment plant sole source and procurement. The requested action is to procure 2 screw presses to replace our failing belt presses at our wastewater treatment plant in the solids handling building. This is a budgeted item. It's a bridge improvement project, and we intend to retain this with the new reconstruction of the wastewater treatment plant. The next steps are or the request specifically is to declare this a sole source authorized pre-procurement of this equipment and publish a 14-day notice. Why act now? Our belt presses are nearing the end of their useful life, and DEQ has identified that this is an issue with our current permit. With that, I will let Nick with Stantec take over more of the technical aspect.
Thanks, Holly. I get the honor of talking about wastewater solids dewatering. So as you can see, that's the existing belt press, which takes the entire solids generated at the wastewater plant and dewaters them so that there can be reduced numbers of truckloads, reduced hauling cost, et cetera. So that's a piece of equipment from the late 1980s. So kudos to Holly and her team for keeping those belt presses running for darn near 40 years. So with that, it's time to invest and bring in some new equipment to last hopefully another 20 to 40 years. So with that, the screw press, which is another form of mechanical dewatering systems, was selected as the best alternative for continued solids dewatering at the wastewater plant. And really, what is this piece of equipment? It's a mechanical unit that takes approximately 1.5 to 2% solid sludge, compresses it, adds a polymer to it, a chemical, which creates better dewatering characteristics, squeezes the water out, and then you go from about 1.5 to 2% solids to about 17, 18%. So you're in the ballpark of 1/5 to maybe 1/10 of the amount of truckloads going out from the wastewater plant to the landfill, wherever it's disposed of. So the sludge enters the screw press and basically is conveyed through an auger, and it compresses the sludge to squeeze the water out, or you have the end cake, which drops into a hopper and into a truck or a haul truck. So that's basically what a screw press is, just a different form of dewatering units. Next slide. So why sole source this unit? I guess the biggest reason is, one, this Huber Q-Press vendor was the only one to respond to the request for a pilot. So when the city put out a request for multiple vendors to provide a pilot to identify if their mechanical dewatering unit would work for the city's sludge characteristics, Huber is the only one that responded, and the pilot was successful. Another reason is this screw press fits perfectly in that upstairs solids handling room. So it fits well, and it will replace those belt presses just right. And if we were to solicit additional pilots, we're talking about quite a bit longer of a lead time than to pilot and then potentially change the design into whatever the system was that was selected. So in the for time considerations and due to DEQ's noted violations of the existing belt presses, which are near failing, and the risk that, you know, goes along with not having adequate dewatering at the wastewater plant, sole source was selected as the best alternative to go here to shorten the time frame to get it installed.
Thank you.
So the next steps, we're hoping to get procurement and delivery from now through June. They're about 27 to 29 weeks of lead time plus some submittal time and a little bit of additional coordination time. Design through February, get a contractor on board to install those the summer of 2026 so that we can relieve that risk of the belt press, aged belt presses. And the Huber Q Press, there's two of them. They're funded by the wastewater fund, and budgetary numbers is 1.5 million. We've got a quote for a few $100,000 less than that. So we're hoping that, cross our fingers, that quote holds and the time that we can get to finalize the procurement. So that's kind of where we're at this point.
And the requested action is before council on the screen. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Holly. And I guess I think we've all toured the plant. Absent from your photos were the ratchets and the rust and the cracked frame and the actual belt press currently in operation. So I've seen one of these Huberts down in operation down in city of Haley. It's quiet, it's efficient. Thank you for piloting this so quickly and putting us in a position where we can start to make some improvements to the wastewater plant. Council have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Council President.
I know this is probably a down the road question for you, Holly, but having been in that same building and knowing that the other equipment was very corroded and it's a very chemically, you open the door and you know you're somewhere, chlorine, and it's not a pool. So what are we going to do to preserve the newer equipment inside of that older building? Do we have some interim solutions? So
I actually let Nick take
Yeah.
this. This is part of the design he's working on.
Sure.
Great.
Yeah. So first thing is this screw press is much more contained. So you don't have open water splashing all over the floor and creating quite a moist environment.
mhm.
The second thing is we're going to improve the HVAC system within that room. So it's better ventilation. That's part of the solution. And then we're going to replace a lot of the corroded piping from some of the humidity and different chemicals or gases that are in that room that we're trying to get away from.
Okay,
So-
great explanation. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilman Howard.
Yeah, two real quick questions. Can you give us any color on why the other vendors didn't want to demonstrate equipment? What was did they give you any explanation? Why was Huber the only one that came forward?
We typically, when we put out a request for a pilot, we don't hear back from folks, and we never followed up as to the why. So we've not done that second step on engagement as to why. We have looked locally. These are installed at other local wastewater treatment plants, and they operate quite well.
My second question is, typically when we say we want to do multi-sources, we want price competitiveness. So if we say sole source, how do you assure us that we're getting price competitiveness?
Yeah, so we got quotes early on when it was not sole source. There was not a mention of sole source, and they're holding that to that quote. And in fact, I just got a confirmation 2 days ago that they're holding to that quote that they originally gave us, 8 and 10 months ago in that ballpark. So I have a pretty good relationship with the vendor's representative, and they're pretty reputable. So I have a fairly high level of confidence in them. I mean, you can never be 100% certain until you see the final number, but these are very comparable to what we've put in Pocatello, which we put these units in Pocatello. So it's very comparable cost, a couple years down the road. So a little bit inflation, but comparable. And I will note that one of the screw press vendors did note that they did not put in for the pilot because they knew they couldn't fit their units into this room. I didn't hear from any of the others, but this one, it was the right fit. So that's why the wrong fit. So that's why they didn't put in for the pilot. They knew they couldn't compete.
Let me clarify. You gave an explanation that says, hey, they're holding basically to their original quote. I can appreciate that, but how do we understand, is that competitive to other vendor screw presses?
We've done a bit of an analysis on that, and there is some are higher, some are lower. We could do get a cost comparison of those as well. But it's right in line with industry standards for that type of units, which we've put in those in several locations outside of Sandpoint.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Council President.
Just one quick follow-up question. So I know we have 2 belt presses. Will we eventually have 2 screw presses so that if we have a failure within the system, we can switch one offline and bring the other one on?
Yes, this intent is to replace both of our belt presses with 2 screw presses. So we'll bring them
Okay.
online one at a time to make sure that the screw press actually functions the way that we intend for it to function. And then we'll have 2. So we have the backup and that redundancy for that scenario that you speak to.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Councilman Trevor.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm inclined to support this because I do see the logistical issues of trying to fit something in the building as well as the urgency. We certainly don't want to have a wastewater accident while we're waiting for bids from people who already didn't respond to us in the first time. The only question I had, would selecting these presses limit our future options for the other components of our future plant in any way? Is it sort of like these presses only work with Huber's other products, or are they pretty compatible no matter what other components we have to mate them with in the future?
Yeah, the solids handling facility is likely to stay in operation as is for quite some time. But those are units that you could move to another location and reuse them in another capacity. I mean, solids dewatering is pretty standard. So practice. So you're going to have solids removal of wastewater streams no matter what process you use in the future, what sort of improvements. It would be highly likely that you could reuse these in another capacity should they not fail for some reason. So I don't know if does that answer your question?
My question was more, is it going to limit our options for the other components of a future water plant? Or is it just as likely to be compatible as any other brand?
I think compatibility would be highly likely for it. It's not yeah, I think it's likely it would be compatible to other installations.
And I'll just add, that was the intent. When we identified this as a bridge improvement project, the intent of this project is to bridge us to that new wastewater treatment plant. So our goal is to keep these through June, as soon as they're installed, through the longevity of the next 20 years at the plant. So that's our goal in that identifying this bridge improvement project.
Councilman Trevor, I can tell you that I personally toured the Haley wastewater plant this winter, and they have these Huber presses as well as an FKC, other piece of big equipment right next to it. So they had many different suppliers and types all in line in their process.
Perfect. Thanks.
I had a question. I'm just looking that according to President Trump's tariffs, steel and equipment, aluminum equipment, industrial equipment, or components primarily made of steel and aluminum face a 50% tariff coming from the EU. Do you have any idea of what and I know the current legality of those tariffs is at the very moment being questioned and challenged. Any idea how that would apply to the quotes and the bids you got?
No, our latest correspondence with the vendor was that they would hold true to their price. So
Wow.
hopefully when we move forward with our purchase order, that stays. If it's anything over our requested action tonight, we'd have to come back and council would have an opportunity to reconsider.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I did ask that question of the vendor's representative, and they indicated that this was their quote. They were standing by it. So
Great. Go ahead, Councilman Spiro.
Did I miss what the lifespan was on this machine?
20 years typically. Mhm. Some of them last longer, as we've seen with the belt press, but yeah.
The one I'm looking at in Haley was installed in 2015, so it's 10 years old, and I got pictures. It looks brand new. That's
great.
Impressive. Great. Council members don't have any other questions. I'd entertain a motion to approve the resolution declaring sole source procurement for the Q press and related equipment from Hubert Technology.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by President Rule, second by Councilman Spiro. Let's go
Fast
roll
for
vote.
me.
Oh, Councilwoman
Did
Duquette.
you have a question, Councilwoman?
No, I said you guys are too fast for me to push my button to second. I just want a part of this, you know? Sorry,
Your
go ahead.
spirit and voice.
I'm getting tired.
This will be a roll call vote.
Counselor Spiro,
Yes.
Counselor Howarth,
Yes.
Counselor Rule,
Yes.
Counselor Duquette,
Yes.
Counselor Schreiber,
Yes.
Counselor Dick.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, motion passes.
Excellent. Moving right along. The final item under new business is a request for staff or for council authorization to solicit requests for qualification for improvements to the City Beach RV campground and the City Beach parking lot. I will now yield the floor to Planning Community Development Director Jason Welker.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a presentation for you. The staff report kind of gave the background here. The context is as follows. In our 2026 Parks Capital Improvement Budget, we had put $150,000 of our approximately $300,000 in park CIP funds towards grant match. You'll recall that that was intended for two grants. One is the RV fund, the Recreation and Vehicle Fund grant from the Idaho Department of Parks and Recreation, which was awarded for $950,000. And we put the very minimum of $50,000 towards the match requirement for that, which was super rewarding. We're leveraging that $50,000 20 times to achieve $1 million project at our City Beach RV campground. The other grant we applied for was the Waterways Improvement Fund grant. This one was always going to be a bit of a stretch. We asked for $600,000 and we put $100,000 match towards that grant. The last time the city received the WIF grant was in 2020 or 2021 when we repaved and redid the docks at the Memorial Field boat launch. That was paid for out of Parks Capital Improvement Funds, but at that time we put about a 50% match forward. And more importantly, when we applied for those grant funds, we had a design and an engineering concept all ready to submit with our grant application. The feedback we received from the Idaho Department of Parks and Rec this year was that we're not sure what we're paying for. Why would we give you $600,000 when you haven't shown us what you plan to do with it? And the reason for that is that all we have for City Beach right now is those concepts from our 2020 Parks Master Plan and the ultimately not adopted by Council 2023 Downtown Waterfront Vision Report. So we have two literally watercolor drawings, but neither of these documents provide anything close to a bid-ready package for a contractor to come in and build something. What the Department of Parks and Recreation would like to see for us to increase our odds of receiving that WIF grant next time we apply, which I intend to do next year, is some actual engineering documents that we can demonstrate what we plan to do at the City Beach parking lot. You'll recall that the two essential feedbacks we got from Department of Parks and Rec was, one, we don't know what you plan to do with our money because you don't have any final design documents for your concept. And two, we don't really see that this benefits boaters all that much. So we don't want to commit $600,000 of boater registration money for a project that seems to be benefiting primarily vehicle users, not boaters. So what I'm here to present to you now is the proposal that we reallocate the $100,000 we were going to put towards the grant that we did not receive from the Department of Parks and Recreation, combine that with the $1 million we have budgeted for the RV park. And when we engage in design and engineering for the recreational vehicle park improvements, we include in the scope of work for the RV park improvements, design and engineering documents for an improved City Beach parking lot. With those documents, we can reapply for the WIF grant, use any money we get from parking in lieu of funds and some of our parks capital improvement funds next year or the year after next, and hopefully engage in an improvement of City Beach that achieves, I think, something great for this community, which included in the scope of work we're requesting through this request for qualifications is the primary. I'm just going to read some of these bullet points here. What we're looking for is renovate the existing RV campground to provide a modern, accessible, and high-quality visitor experience, incorporating current industry best practices and durable, low-maintenance materials, replace aging water, sewer, and power utilities through the campground and address drainage and grading needs, design and upgrade a campground layout that improves internal circulation, site access, and functionality for all RV sites, including ADA accessible spaces. We're talking about an ADA compliant restroom and shower facility. And then we get to the scope that incorporates the parking lot. Redesign the City Beach vehicle and boat trailer parking lot to improve circulation, layout, and efficiency, and ease of access for both standard and oversized vehicles. Design a bus turnaround and drop-off zone near the parking lot entrance to improve group and transit access. I've heard feedback over the years that it's a nightmare to drop kids off and pick them up at City Beach without getting stuck in the snake of cars winding the way around City Beach. Providing a drop-off area easily accessed near the entrance to City Beach parking lot is something we've long desired in this community. Provide visual renderings and layout concepts to support public engagement, stakeholder input, and future grant opportunities. So these are some of the components we're looking for in a scope of work from an engineering firm. I've consulted with Holly, who's got a ton of experience in projects like this. I was inspired by the Downtown Revitalization Phase 3 RFQ, which is going out very soon. I think it's actually gone out. And there are great efficiencies to be had by combining the design and engineering for the parking lot with the design and engineering for the RV park, knowing that we do not yet have funds fully secured for a parking lot project to build, but our chances of getting those funds through a grant application are increased dramatically if we can present bid-ready documents with our next WIF grant application. We do expect the construction of the parking lot to exceed $1 million. Therefore, based on discussions with some local engineers, $100,000 is believed to be a suitable amount to get a full bid-ready design and engineering package included in the scope of work for the RV park that we can put into our grant applications for the future WIF grant. Now, another component that I didn't read off of this, but would be included is improved turnaround area for boats. If you've observed the boat trailer backing situation on there, it's quite crowded. So we'd be looking at some improvements for the actual boat launch as well, which would further increase our odds of getting that WIF grant in the future. So we've received these grants in the past. When we did, we before applying, we had an engineering concept all ready to go. We do not yet have that for City Beach, despite our Parks Master Plan having a watercolor drawing. What we're talking about now is taking some of the concepts we've explored in the last 5 years for City Beach, providing those and doing site visits and doing community engagement with stakeholders here in City Hall, down at City Beach, and try to understand what our community really wants to see as far as the visitor experience to the parking lot, to the drop-off area, the boat trailer parking area, and the boat launches at City Beach. So I just wanted to present that to you tonight, ask for your approval to use those $100,000 that would have gone towards a grant that we did not receive to instead put towards design and engineering to hopefully increase our odds of getting that grant in the future.
Thank you, Director Welker. Just first affirmation, this did go to the Parks and Rec Commission and they recommended that you do this.
Yes, we presented this at the last Parks and Rec Commission meeting. They understood. We actually have a civil engineer on our Parks and Rec Commission, so we got some really good feedback from that individual on what the cost might be for this project, and $100,000 was deemed to be pretty adequate in terms of getting a complete bid package for this project.
And two quick more follow-ups. One, basically this is taking dollars out of the fund that you basically guide and direct with council approval, and you feel like this is the best use of those dollars to prepare us for the eventual grant application next year?
If our goal is to get a grant to fund City Beach parking lot improvements, this is definitely the best use of those funds. If council decides there are other important parks projects and that improvements to that City Beach parking lot are not a high priority, that's up for council to decide. That's why I'm asking for your input on this.
Great, great.
There are certainly other things we could do with $100,000 in our parks. I will say that from our parks capital improvement plan.
Excellent. And I guess if this did proceed and we did get the grant, it might align well with our planned parking management rollout. We could, I assume, integrate it to some degree and make sure our paid parking system down at the beach can take into consideration what the beach is going to look like.
Sure, there will definitely be some design considerations with regards to future paid parking.
Council have any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead,
Mayor?
Council President.
Sorry, Pam.
That's
My
okay.
comment would be that I know you're requesting for parking lot, but being a part of the pedestrian and, bicycle committee, our pathway that goes around the beach sort of dead ends into the boat launch. And I think that, and I can bring this up within committee, but having a pathway that circulates completely around the beach and is integrated to that parking lot and then sort of comes together at the entrance. As we do this engineering, it wouldn't necessarily have to be built, but if we can make allowances,
I will
that
say
we have a
that's
complete circle.
That's a great observation. It has come up in our Parks Commission meeting
Great.
that everybody who gets out of the car at City Beach is forced to walk down the middle of the drive aisles at City Beach. Not a great design. Ideally, we'd have a pathway that you can exit your car, get on the path and make it to either side of the beach from there. So that could definitely be incorporated into the design.
Right, and even walkers who come down to the
Sure.
beach to walk a full lap and go do whatever. I see a lot of people do that, or ride their bikes down and make a lap. So it
Yeah, well-
sounds like they've discussed that a lot in
One
Parks and
of the
Rec.
things we see in being the parks director and the planning director is that every private development application, we have standards for parking lots that our parking lots absolutely don't live up to, especially at City Beach, because that parking lot was inherited by the city in the mid-'80s and hasn't really changed since the '60s. So there were no parking lot design standards when that parking lot was built. We'd like to bring it up to a standard that we hold private developers to today.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
Councilwoman Duquette?
Yes, thank you. I had a couple questions, Jason. First, with the RV park, and you talk about a roundabout, is that part of the RV parks funding to incorporate that as since it would be kind of, I think, at the entrance to the RV park?
So in the design effort, we would be, for a budgeting standpoint, have to pull anything that's not directly within the boundaries of the RV park out and pay for that out of our park CIP fund. The grant will not support design work that does not ultimately contribute to the RV park. Does that make sense? So there'll be kind of, we'll have to partition, if we estimate, $100,000 of this design contract will be for the RV park and 100,000 will be for the parking lot. We're going to have to kind of separate out how we report that, especially for grant reimbursement with the Idaho Department of Parks and Rec. We can't get reimbursed from the RV fund for the scope of work that exists outside of the RV park.
Okay, but the design is included in that RV park, the design for the RV park.
Right.
So you're not using this 100,000 at all for the RV park?
Correct. The RV park will be fully funded from the grant and the
Okay, you're just trying
$50,000
to
will be put as a grant match.
save money, I get that.
The total budget for the RV park design, engineering, and construction is $1 million.
Right.
We're asking to add 100,000 so that we can include the parking lot design and engineering
I
in
see.
that.
And is it going to cost $100,000 for a design? parking?
Our friend on the Parks Commission, who's a civil engineer, thinks that will get us there. Yeah, generally around 10% is what you'd budget for design and engineering for a project like that. So if we estimate the parking lot improvement to cost $1 million, 10%, it would be 100,000.
Okay, the boat trailer parking was supposed to be where the RV park is. I guess I have a lot of questions. You're not taking any green space in this design, correct?
I think we'd be looking to add some green space. We require shade trees in all private parking lots in town. We don't have any shade trees in the interior. It's something like I forget the ratio. It's like for every 16 vehicle spaces, 1 tree has to be included in your parking lot. We don't have any standards like that at the City Beach lot. So we'd be looking to include landscaping that doesn't currently exist there in the new design.
Okay, we do have a lot of shade trees in the park itself. I guess I don't see where there's room to do all you're talking about without taking any of the grassy area. And I would be against any of the minimizing of the grassy area we have. I guess I would have to see the design, how they're going to put boat trailers, a roundabout, and all of that would come before us before you even go anywhere farther than a design, correct?
Correct. And the Parks Commission would be involved early on as well. And there would also be broader, at least one, probably more than one workshop type thing, either on site or at a farmer's market or in these chambers where we focus specifically on the concepts for the
Because
other projects.
Rereading the master parks plan talks about taking some of that green space away on the north side. And I'm not sure.
Just to be clear, we're not
you're not messing with the
we're
park.
not proposing implementing the parks master plan concept for City Beach, rather using some of the components of that. I think at least one of the plans we had did show a kind of a roundabout drop-off area at the entrance to City Beach. So they're taking the things that we like about the parks plan and the downtown waterfront vision concept and putting together an actual buildable project for the City Beach parking lot.
Okay, would the parking lot enlargement for the boat trailers fulfill enough to satisfy the grant? It just doesn't seem like there's room.
A future WIF grant, do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think demonstrating that our updated design takes into consideration the boater's experience is going to increase our chances of receiving a generous grant.
Okay. Okay.
That would be our objective.
Okay, thanks.
Any other council discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Councilman Schreiber.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking this to the Parks and Rec Commission. I went back and watched that meeting. The potential for cost saving efficiency is certainly appealing. I don't know if I agree with the staff report where it says that the commission concurred with staff. There wasn't a vote taken, so there wasn't an official recommendation. And in fact, one of the commissioners called it a quote waste of money, and the chair actually expressed concern about what we're robbing from. And so I guess my hope would have been that there would have been more discussion in that meeting about what else that $100,000 could go toward, and have there be several options on the table rather than just this. Again, I understand why it makes sense from an efficiency standpoint to put this in that direction, but we also have parking funds that are designated for parking areas, and these funds are designated for parks. And yes, this is a parking lot in a park, but it occurs to me that there's potential for other funding sources for this particular project, and that $100,000 could be used for other park projects throughout our town, particularly in neighborhoods that might not have any park.
Yeah. Yeah, good observation. And it wasn't an action item, it was a discussion item. There was one Parks Commissioner who his observation was, we already have a couple concepts down there. Why don't we just use one of those? I think that was kind of demonstrated a lack of understanding that those are, concepts that aren't ready to hand to a contractor and say, please build. So there's a big leap between the Parks Master Plan concept and bid ready documents. So I think there's a little bit of lack of understanding of what we were talking about when we say bid ready construction documents.
Sure.
So, but you're absolutely right. There are other, just to remind you though, this 100,000 was budgeted for the parking lot improvement. It was going to be the match for the grant that we didn't get because we didn't have this design concept. So
Right.
The Parks Commission did, and council did already budget this money for City Beach parking lot improvements.
Right. But we could potentially use parking fund money for the same design and still go out for that same grant, and then use this parks money for a park somewhere else.
Part of this is timing, in that we have a year or two to spend those RV park funds. So we're trying to get the ball rolling on the RFQ for the RV park. So combining this in the scope of work for that so that we have one cohesive design requires us. We don't have parking in lieu funds right now to support this project. I think our total balance in that is around $20,000. So if we did await the future when those parking in lieu funds have come in, we'd be going out for a completely new RFQ. We'd probably get a different firm on board, and it would delay this project for the future. But it's certainly, something we could do.
Any other council questions, discussion? This will be a roll call vote.
Mr. Mayor,
We need a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. I need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the issuance of the RFQ for the RV campground only.
Motion, is there a second? Motion dies for lack of second.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to solicit the RFQ for City Beach RV campground and beach parking lot improvements.
I'll second.
Motion made by President Rule, second by Dick. This will be a roll call vote.
Counselor Howarth,
Yes.
Counselor Duquette,
Yes.
Counselor Dick,
Yes.
Counselor Spiro,
Yes.
Counselor Rule,
Yes.
Counselor Schreiber.
No.
Mr. Mayor, motion passes.
Thank you. We'll now move on to old business and the final item on our agenda, which is a discussion regarding our citizen advisory boards. I'm bringing this to you, council. It's a quick but important concern about how our council and committees, our committees and commissions are currently operating. I think you all know that I'm a huge supporter and very grateful for the volunteers that have filled these committees and commissions. It's a lot of time. The pay is low, and they provide very valuable input and support our work. Right now, many of these committees are setting their own agendas and formulating subcommittees without clear direction from the council or the mayor. While the volunteer energy is appreciated, this approach is creating some challenges and problems. First, it leads to work that isn't always aligned with the priorities we've established. I'll use the analogy, we have many challenges before us. You're aware of most of those, and we have limited bandwidth. So to some degree through the budgeting process and an improved strategic planning and council workshop, we'll be prioritizing what our needs are. So I'd like to try to focus these committees to address the needs that we've identified. Another challenge is it sometimes blurs accountability, where committees are supposed to be advisory. They're not decision-making authorities or bodies. And finally, it can put some strain on staff resources. Meetings do require preparation and follow-up. So to address this, I believe we need to confirm and reestablish the council or the mayor as the body that directs committee work. This would mean setting clear scope and assignments up front so that committees focus on issues we've already identified as priorities. This adjustment doesn't diminish the value of our volunteers. In fact, it ensures their time and ideas feed directly into actionable outcomes. It also respects staff times and capacity and keeps accountability where it belongs with the elected leadership of Sandpoint. I'd like you to provide your comments on this subject, affirming or disagreeing that committees and commissions will work under the direction of the council and mayor with work plans set or approved at the beginning of each year or as needed along the way. I hope that this clarification will provide our committees with clear, purposeful assignments that contribute to the council's adopted goals and plans, ensure that limited staff time is spent in direct support of our established priorities, and improve accountability and public trust by keeping the elected body responsible for direction setting. With that, I would open this up. You all have had some experience on these committees and commissions. Love to hear your thoughts and guidance and non-binding, what's the legal term? Implied consent to move in the direction to direct commissions and committees to work on project as directed by us or myself.
Mr. Mayor,
Thoughts?
I'm sorry.
Go
was
ahead.
something
Yeah,
else.
sorry, I forget you're not there. Go ahead,
Hey,
Councilwoman.
I'm here. I'm right here.
Right
I
in front of
guess,
me.
I guess I don't understand how that would work.
Well, I'll use some examples. Ms. O'Reilly brought up several of the subcommittees that are working in Ped Bike. And they're off doing identification work. We may have specific needs, demands related to a project that we want their full attention or efforts put towards. So in some circumstances, they're spending a lot of their time and energy, which they have a passion for, but pursuing something that may not be on our top 5 list. In another example, I'd like to give, there have been examples where agenda items and directions on committees, there's been this strange tension where committee members are trying to put things on the agenda. And it really comes back to, what is the purpose of these committees? We obviously can't do all the work that we have before us. So I see these committees as resources to support and assist the city council and staff on projects that we give to them versus the committees coming up with their own work schedule. Not to say that the committees don't have insightful thoughts and direction and opinions, which can be transferred to us through their minutes or through our council reports. But I'd really like to ensure that our committees are clear and that I'm clear on in directing their work, or you're directing their work to specific projects, like bring us a sustainability plan. That would be an example.
And so then that would not require a monthly meeting because you might not always have something for
Right.
some.
When you look at the various committees, not all of them are required to meet monthly. So for arts and culture, they're not required to meet monthly. Pet and Parks and Rec, monthly is not required. Urban Forestry, monthly not required. Many of these are just required to meet 4 times a year. Again, Pet Bike, monthly not required, 4 times a year, and sustainability. And we did do some internal analysis of time spent with the committees. It's not insignificant. We have staff liaisons, we have clerks, we have the preparation of minutes and posting of agendas and things like that. So yeah, that's one of the goals, and they wouldn't be necessarily meeting every month unless there was directed work to do. But I'd love to hear anyone's thoughts on how the committees are going. Is sort of a check-in 2 years into my administration. And I've heard from some of you privately that you've had some suggestions on how we could improve the committees. But I guess I'd just love your thoughts and questions, comments, concerns.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Councilman.
I have the pleasure of being on the Arts, Culture, and Historic Preservation, which I believe is the longest running committee and was still running when the rest of the committees were down. We have Ellie Sussness, who does an amazing job as our chair and stays in communication with the city. I think, I would imagine, quite closely throughout the month. The board members have been on for a while. We run pretty smooth and we operate pretty well together. What I've heard from some of the other committees, and I understand, I think a lot of people signed up hoping to give more feedback, hoping to work on what they wanted to work and what they've heard the communities wanted them to work on. And I completely understand you guys, the city, and the lack of resources and the lack of time and staff time. Might there be a better way at each board meeting or each committee meeting or commission meeting that we bring up, and I don't know how the other commissions work, so this might already be going on, but opportunity for a roundtable of commissioners or committee members to bring to the table issues, things that they want to work on, hot topic in the community, and staff takes that into consideration, sees how that fits with your long-term planning or at least your annual planning.
I think that's a great idea, Councilman Dick.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Council President.
Councilman Dick's over there kind of reading my mind. And this kind of came up in the committee and it was suggested that, it was done historically. I'm going to speak to the Bicycle Ped Committee because that's the committee I sit on. And I feel like if we could empower the committee and allow them to have a top 3 to 5 sort of wish list thing that can then come before council in those sort of annual strategic meetings and see if any of those things fit in that are maybe larger, bigger items. And then also included in that same wish list might be low hanging fruit that doesn't always necessarily need to become a part of a strategic plan, but could definitely be addressed at a staff level. And then I think that would help with the direction for the committees. And then Bike Ped is interesting because they are also do have plans and different developments that are brought forward to them. So I do think that's important for them to be able to assess that. I think if we did focus more on sort of a wish list type of protocol, that there would be less of a need for subcommittees, because when it comes to the full committee, we're trying to get the opinion of that whole committee on these issues that are coming up, or if there's a vote that needs to be taken so that opinion or guidance can be then given to the council. That doesn't mean that there can't be smaller groups that are less formal, that maybe 3 or 4 people have the time to go work on something or get information relative to these wish lists, or maybe somebody has time to go assess the development where maybe not all, but I don't think they have to be necessarily official types of subcommittees. It seems like sometimes that slows the process instead of speeding up the process if there's not a subcommittee meeting scheduled, but planning needs some more input for a development because maybe they were really busy and then they're like, oh yeah, I need to take that there. And it might be able to happen at a faster pace that way. All the people on Bike Ped Committee are great. Some minds that really see things that I don't. So every time I'm there, I learn a little bit, and I'm very appreciative of that. So I hope that just helps kind of give direction. I know we will have new staff leadership. I was on vacation when Mr. Brubaker had his first meeting with Bike Ped, so I'm looking forward to seeing how he kind of directs that committee.
Thank you, Council President. That gives me some good direction. That's aligned sort of with Councilman Dick's thinking.
I'm sorry, just to add, I think that would also be a cost-cutting piece, because then our staff isn't scheduling all the subcommittee types of meetings and different things. So there has to be a balance somewhere, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess for me, it's to give these committees very specific, and I know I have to do a better job bringing us as a council together on those priorities, but giving them very specific priorities of this is what we need help with. This is what we want you to work on, rather than them picking something and saying, we're going to spend a lot of time on something that may not be a priority or top issue for the council.
That would go back to what Councilman Dick said, where we allow an opportunity for them to have, 3 or 5 hot topics, and then we come to an agreement upon, yeah, I think the city can make these 2 happen this year. Let's focus on how we need to get those done, or however that kind of works.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, quick question.
Councilman Trevor, yeah.
Ms. O'Reilly's comments led me to believe that the subcommittees were reducing staff involvement. Is that not the case? That the staff has to be involved in every subcommittee meeting, or do the subcommittees meet outside of the committees and then bring their findings to the committee?
I'm going to defer to the city clerk for this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Schreiber, City Clerk Melissa Ward. The subcommittees are not, they're not a quorum of the committee. So they don't require a clerk for those committee meetings, those subcommittee meetings. Doesn't require official minutes, although they do take notes during those meetings. Staff is involved in securing space for them to meet, sometimes having to create a Zoom meeting and for those who aren't available to attend in person. And additionally, there are a number of, we keep repositories for these committees where we're uploading documents on a regular basis for them and for the subcommittees. So there is staff involvement. It isn't as involved as a full committee meeting, but there is staff involvement.
Excellent. Thank you. I guess I can go ahead and jump in with my thoughts now. I think these committees are a great way for us to keep in touch with the community. And I think that we've assembled really effective and knowledgeable people in their fields that are inherently going to bring things to our attention that we didn't know about. And therefore, confining them to things that only we have thought of is going to eliminate a lot of really important feedback from the community. I think one of the things that jumped out at me from Ms. O'Reilly's comments was the dangerous intersections committee. Has anyone on this council ever asked a committee to come up with a list of dangerous intersections? I haven't heard it. So I think that the fact that they're out doing that without us having to micromanage them is excellent. And I can think of a couple examples on the Urban Forestry Committee where we probably could have gotten a little bit more done if we would have established some subcommittees, although we're only 5 members, so that kind of limits our ability to do that. There's also examples of situations where the committee, my commission, is not being tapped for even the things that our code specifies that it should be tapped for, like advising let me see if I can find the code real quick, advising the city council on budgetary needs. That never came from staff as an agenda item for us to tackle. And we just got through our budget process, and not one meeting was dedicated to that. And it's in code that we were supposed to cover that. I think that there is also a situation where my commission was put in an awkward situation because projects didn't come to our commission in a timely manner. And so council had to send the decision back to them. And so instead of making a recommendation to us, they were the decision makers. So in that situation, it wasn't the commission's fault that they were assuming power that they didn't have. It was our fault for not using them appropriately and getting information to them in a timely manner. So I guess to summarize, I would like to see the commissions and committees expanded, and I welcome their input. If it's 3 to 5 strategic projects that they want to work on throughout a year, maybe that will keep people on task. I'm open to that. But I think it's way too soon for us to be putting extra rules or confining these experts that we've tapped for this exact purpose.
Thank you, Councilman Schreiber. I think that you make a lot of good points there. I like the 3 to 5 strategic projects. I know we did an internal assessment. I believe it was almost 90 paid hours in 1 month of staff time. And I can tell you, beyond the financial cost, just the capacity, today's a great example. We've got a lot going on. We're accomplishing a lot of things. The staff is doing a wonderful job, but they are limited in terms of their capacity. So I generally like the idea of having maybe committee recommended strategic projects, but narrowing that scope so it's not a committee meeting turns into a whole, project that is devouring staff time that we might not even be interested in or aware of. I mean, yeah, I like what you're saying. Bring their skills and expertise, a better method to bring those concerns or areas to our attention to have us direct their work.
that did just remind me of one thing, if you don't mind. Um, I don't have the code right in front of me, but they are expected to be the liaison between the city and the public. And I recall a budgetary item from either the downtown waterfront design or perhaps multimodal, where we paid a consultant something like $50,000 to fly up here from
Previous
Boise,
administration.
to fly up here from Boise for a weekend and spend just one weekend engaging in our public. So I think if we think about the bang for our buck that we're getting from these committees and commissions, if we were to pay a consultant to do that work, we'd be paying far more than 90 hours worth of staff time.
I hear you there. That resonates. Yep. How about from the right side here? Any thoughts, Councilman Howard or Sparrow?
I'll make a few comments. First of all, I'll recognize that I am not sitting on a committee today. My experience, though, has dealt a lot with committee work. I love all of the comments. I love the fact that we are open to having the public be part of our process and the inputs and helping us do the work that needs to get done. I would think if I was on a committee and I was doing work and it never came to fruition in the city, that would be a very frustrating experience if I was on the committees. And so there has to be some alignment so that the work that the committees are doing are beneficial and they can see that actually come to completion. If all they do is advise and nothing ever gets done with that advice, I think we're going to lose the good talent we have on our committees. And so I think what you're asking for is just better synergy, and I think better synergy makes for happier working relationships on both sides of that. And I think that's going to be a win-win for everybody. And so I love the public involvement. I think we can do a better job engaging them, using their knowledge, guiding them, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Thank you, Councilman Howard. Councilman Spiro, any thoughts?
Thank you. A lot of great thoughts. I concur with a lot of it. I think one of the hard parts in my 8 years of being up here is government moves slow. I think it's intentional. It's a good thing, but sometimes we even have a hard time meshing and figuring things out. How much more a committee, how much less a committee, and trying to get them on with us, and then us getting together with them and the mayor. So I'm a little more sympathetic in that sense. Like, my expectations are a lot lower maybe than some of yours with committees. Not that their hearts aren't there. It's just the reality of my experience the past 8 years. I'm thankful to have Mr. Welker there to, I feel like you're the liaison. So it's kind of weird when I'm at these meetings and Jason's there, and then Jason comes and gives a staff report about it. And then I don't really know. I don't have much more to say than he does. That's his everyday life. So I think that they're okay. I mean, I've been on council for 8 years and I've been trying to get volleyball courts and I still don't have them. So for a committee member to get there, and forgive me for my voice, it's a little scratchy, for a committee member to expect to get all of their stuff on an agenda, and yeah, I can't even get volleyball courts. It's the reality of government. So I think they're great and there's good knowledge, but I think we all have to be a little more patient with each other and get a flow. I don't think we have a flow yet, which is why I think you're trying to find that balance. And I don't have an answer for that, except for I thought these were good ideas of how do you give them a little bit and how do we gain a little bit to work together.
Great. Well, that's super helpful, council members. What I'm hearing is some balance of both elevating opportunities and issues from the commissions and committees, but also some sounding board for us to endorse those so that, as Councilman Howard said, they don't spend a bunch of time and energy doing something that doesn't end up being delivered. So I think we can all agree we want these valuable volunteers to spend their time efficiently and wisely and feel like they're really moving the needle. And there's a lot of work for us to put on them. So with that, I will consider and continue to work with staff and yourselves to figure out that sweet spot and direct actions accordingly. So with that, there's no action there. I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:10.
So moved.
Moved by Dick, second by Howarth. All those in favor?
Yay.
Yay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.